The Haunting of Willow Grove Cemetery. In the heart of Willow Grove Cemetery, where shadows danced among the tombstones and the moon cast an eerie glow, there stood a weathered mausoleum, its stone walls bearing the weight of centuries, echoing with whispers of the past. Inside, amidst the dusty sarcophagi, lay the remains of a forgotten soul, a skeleton, its bones bleached white by time, its empty eye sockets seeming to stare into the abyss, waiting for something, or someone. The air inside the mausoleum was heavy with the scent of decay, a palpable reminder of the inevitability of death that lingered in every corner. Cobwebs draped from the ceiling like funeral shrouds, swaying gently in the faint breeze that whispered through the cracks in the ancient stone. The silence was broken only by the occasional creak of the wooden door, a haunting echo of the countless souls who had entered the tomb before. Outside, the graveyard lay shrouded in darkness, the moonlight casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and contort with each passing moment. The headstones stood like sentinels, their inscriptions worn away by time, their occupants lost to the annals of history. But amidst the stillness, there was a sense of restless energy, as if the very earth itself was waiting for something to stir it from its slumber. And then, as if in response to some unseen cue, a figure emerged from the darkness. A solitary figure, cloaked in shadows and shrouded in mystery. With each step, the ground seemed to groan beneath their weight, a mournful lament for the souls that had been laid to rest within its embrace. They moved with purpose, their footsteps echoing through the silent graveyard like the tolling of a funeral bell. And as they drew closer to the mausoleum, the air grew colder, the darkness deeper, until it seemed as if they were walking through a world of shadows and whispers. But still, they pressed on, drawn inexorably towards the ancient tomb that lay at the heart of the cemetery. For within its walls, they knew, lay the key to unlocking the secrets of Willow Grove, and perhaps the key to unlocking the secrets of their own soul. As the clock struck midnight, a lone figure wandered into the graveyard, their footsteps echoing softly against the cold stone beneath. The figure's breath hung in the air like a ghostly mist, swirling and dancing in the moonlight as they made their way through the silent rows of headstones. Their heart pounded in their chest, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo the pulse of the earth itself. Mark, a skeptic by nature, scoffed at the tales of the cemetery's haunting, dismissing them as nothing more than fanciful stories spun by superstitious minds. But as he ventured deeper into the shadows, a chill crept down his spine, sending shivers racing along his skin. Unseen eyes watched his every move, their gaze piercing through the darkness with a malevolent intensity. He tried to shake off the feeling of unease that settled over him like a suffocating blanket, but it clung to him like a persistent specter, refusing to be ignored. Ignoring his instincts, Mark pressed on, determined to prove once and for all that there was nothing to fear in the graveyard's depths. But with each step, the darkness seemed to grow deeper, the shadows more oppressive, until it felt as if he were wading through a sea of black ink. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, twisted shadows that danced and flickered across the tombstones like specters in the night. Mark's footsteps faltered as he caught sight of a figure lurking in the shadows, its form indistinct and wavering like a mirage in the desert. He blinked, and in an instant, the figure was gone, swallowed up by the darkness as if it had never been there at all. His heart raced in his chest as he tried to make sense of what he had seen, but the memory slipped through his fingers like sand, leaving only a lingering sense of dread in its wake. Desperate to escape the suffocating grip of the graveyard's curse, Mark quickened his pace, his footsteps echoing through the silent night like the drumbeat of a funeral march. But no matter how fast he ran, the darkness seemed to close in around him, enveloping him in its cold embrace. And as he disappeared into the depths of the graveyard, a faint whisper echoed through the night, carrying with it a warning that went unheard. Beware the darkness, for it holds secrets far older and more terrible than any mortal mind can comprehend. Strange whispers echoed through the tombstones, their words unintelligible yet filled with malice, like the hissing of serpents in the shadows. Mark's heart raced as he tried to shake off the feeling of being watched. his breath coming in ragged gasps as he stumbled through the darkness. But with each step, the whispers grew louder, their icy tendrils wrapping around his mind like the coils of a constrictor. He reached out a trembling hand, fingers brushing against the cold stone of a nearby headstone, its surface worn smooth by the passage of time. The words etched into its surface seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, sending a shiver racing down his spine. Desperate to escape the suffocating grip of the graveyard's curse, Mark pressed on, his footsteps quickening as he fled deeper into the darkness. But no matter how far he ran, the whispers followed him, their mocking laughter echoing through the silent night like the tolling of a funeral bell. His breath came in ragged gasps as he stumbled over roots and fallen branches, the ground seeming to shift and twist beneath his feet. Shadows danced and flickered across the tombstones, their forms twisting and contorting in the pale moonlight. Mark's mind raced with fear and confusion as he struggled to make sense of the nightmare unfolding around him. Was it all just a trick of the mind, he wondered, a figment of his imagination brought on by the oppressive darkness of the graveyard? Or was there something more sinister at work, something lurking in the shadows, waiting to drag him down into the depths of despair? He shook his head, trying to banish the doubts that gnawed at his mind like hungry wolves. But the whispers persisted, their words growing more insistent with each passing moment. He closed his eyes and covered his ears, trying to shut out the sound. But it was no use. The whispers seemed to seep into his very soul, filling him with a sense of dread that threatened to consume him whole. And then, just when he thought he could bear it no longer, the whispers ceased, replaced by a deafening silence that hung heavy in the air like a funeral shroud. Mark opened his eyes, blinking in confusion as he looked around the graveyard. But there was no sign of the figure that had haunted him just moments before. Had it all been a hallucination, he wondered, a trick of the mind brought on by fear and exhaustion? Or had he truly come face to face with something far more sinister than he could ever have imagined? Suddenly, a skeletal hand burst forth from the earth, its bony fingers clawing at the soil as if desperate to break free from their earthen prison. Mark stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his chest as he watched in horror as the skeletal figure emerged from the ground before him. Its bones gleamed in the moonlight, bleached white by the passage of time, its empty eye sockets seeming to stare into the depths of his soul. Frozen in terror, Mark could only watch as the creature lurched forward, its rattling bones echoing in the stillness of the night. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips, choked off by the overwhelming fear that gripped him like a vice. The creature's movements were slow and deliberate, as if savoring the moment before it struck, its skeletal form swaying and creaking with each step it took. Mark's mind raced with terror as he scrambled backward, his heart pounding in his chest like a drumbeat of impending doom. He reached out a trembling hand, fingers brushing against the cold stone of a nearby headstone as he tried to steady himself. But the ground seemed to shift and sway beneath his feet, sending him stumbling to the ground in a tangled heap of limbs. The creature loomed over him, its empty eye sockets fixed upon him with an intensity that sent shivers racing down his spine. He could feel the chill of its gaze piercing through him like a knife, freezing him to the core with its icy touch. With a blood-curdling shriek, the creature lunged forward, its skeletal fingers outstretched, as if to claim him for its own. Mark closed his eyes and braced himself for the inevitable, his mind racing with thoughts of the horrors that awaited him in the darkness. But just as he thought all hope was lost, a blinding light erupted from the darkness, illuminating the graveyard with a brilliance that banished the shadows and sent the creature reeling backward with a deafening roar. Mark blinked in astonishment as he watched the scene unfold before him, unsure of what had just transpired. And then, as quickly as it had appeared, the light faded, leaving the graveyard shrouded once more in darkness. The creature let out a guttural growl, its skeletal form writhing and contorting as if in pain, before sinking back into the earth from whence it came. Mark lay on the ground, trembling and exhausted, his mind reeling with disbelief at the ordeal he had just endured. Was it all just a nightmare, he wondered, a trick of the mind brought on by fear and exhaustion? Or had he truly come face to face with something far more sinister than he could ever have imagined? With a shuddering gasp, Mark scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest as he glanced around the graveyard, searching for any sign of the skeletal creature that had just attacked him. But the night was silent, save for the distant rustle of leaves and the faint whisper of the wind. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, fueling his desperate need to escape the suffocating darkness that surrounded him. Ignoring the pain that throbbed in his limbs, he pushed himself to his feet and stumbled forward, his footsteps echoing through the silent cemetery like the tolling of a funeral bell. But no matter how fast he ran, the darkness seemed to swallow him whole, closing in around him like a suffocating shroud. His breath came in ragged gasps as he darted between the tombstones, his heart pounding in his chest like a drumbeat of impending doom. He could hear the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the darkness behind him, drawing closer with each passing moment. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, he realized that he was not alone in the graveyard, that something was hunting him, stalking him through the shadows with a relentless determination. Panic surged through him like a tidal wave as he stumbled over an outstretched root, crashing to the ground with a bone-jarring thud. He scrambled to his feet, his heart racing as he glanced around the graveyard, searching for any sign of the creature that pursued him. But the darkness seemed to close in around him, pressing down upon him like a weight upon his chest. He could feel the creature's presence looming over him, its icy breath chilling him to the bone as it closed in for the kill. With a cry of desperation, he lurched forward, his muscles screaming in protest as he pushed himself to his limits. But no matter how fast he ran, the creature was always one step ahead, its skeletal form looming ever closer with each passing moment. He could feel its hot breath on the back of his neck, its bony fingers reaching out to claim him for its own. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed himself to run faster, his heart pounding in his chest as he raced through the darkness. But it was no use. The creature was gaining on him, its relentless pursuit driving him deeper into the heart of the graveyard. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, he realized that there was no escape, that he was doomed to be hunted through the darkness for all eternity. And as the creature closed in upon him, its skeletal form silhouetted against the pale moonlight, Mark knew that his fate was sealed, that he would never escape the clutches of the graveyard's curse. Cornered and trembling, Mark stumbled upon an ancient gravestone hidden in the shadows, its weathered surface bearing the weight of centuries of forgotten souls. Carved into its stone was a chilling inscription, words etched with the precision of a long-lost age. "Beware the guardian of Willow Grove, for those who trespass shall suffer eternal torment." The words sent a shiver racing down Mark's spine, a cold dread settling over him like a heavy blanket. He reached out a trembling hand, fingers tracing the letters as if to confirm their existence, their reality. But there was no denying the truth. The graveyard was cursed, its guardian bound by a pact forged in the darkest depths of the past. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, Mark realized that he had stumbled into something far more sinister than he could ever have imagined. The creature that pursued him was not just a figment of his imagination, not just a ghostly apparition haunting the graveyard's depths. It was real, tangible, a force to be reckoned with. But what could he do, faced with such a relentless foe, such an ancient curse? Desperation clawed at his mind as he struggled to find a way out of the nightmare that had consumed him whole. And then, like a bolt from the blue, an idea struck him, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness that threatened to swallow him whole. If the graveyard was cursed, if its guardian was bound by some ancient pact, then perhaps there was a way to break free from its clutches, to escape the suffocating grip of the darkness. With renewed determination, Mark set out to uncover the secrets of Willow Grove, to unravel the mysteries that lay hidden beneath its ancient soil. He pored over dusty tomes and ancient manuscripts, searching for any clue that might lead him to the truth. And as he delved deeper into the graveyard's dark history, he began to uncover fragments of a forgotten past, a past filled with darkness and despair. with secrets that had been buried for centuries. It was said that Willow Grove had once been a place of great power, a sacred ground where the living could commune with the dead, where the boundaries between this world and the next were blurred. But with great power came great danger, and soon the graveyard became a place of fear and superstition, a place where only the bravest dared to tread. And so, to protect the living from the dangers that lurked within its depths, a pact was forged, a pact that bound the guardian of Willow Grove to its eternal duty, to protect the graveyard at all costs, even at the expense of its own soul. But as the years passed, and the memory of the pact faded into obscurity, so too did the guardian's sense of purpose, its duty twisted and distorted by the passage of time. And now, as Mark stood on the brink of discovery, he realized that the only way to break free from the curse that bound him was to confront the guardian head-on, to face the darkness that lurked within the graveyard's depths and emerge victorious. With a steely resolve, Mark set out into the night, his heart filled with determination and his mind set on one thing: to free himself from the clutches of the graveyard's curse, no matter the cost. With each step, Mark felt the weight of the graveyard's curse pressing down upon him, its suffocating grip tightening around his heart like a vice. But he refused to let fear dictate his actions, refused to surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume him whole. He had come too far to turn back now, to abandon his quest for freedom in the face of adversity. And so, with a resolute determination, he pressed on, his mind focused on the task at hand, to confront the guardian of Willow Grove and break free from its cursed embrace. As he neared the mausoleum where the skeletal creature dwelled, he could feel the air growing thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that hung heavy in the night. Shadows danced and flickered across the tombstones, their forms twisted and distorted by the pale moonlight. But amidst the darkness, there was a glimmer of hope, a faint spark that burned brightly in the depths of Mark's soul, driving him forward with an unyielding resolve. With a steady hand, he reached out and pushed open the door to the mausoleum, the creaking of its hinges echoing through the silent graveyard like a mournful lament. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of decay, a tangible reminder of the death that lurked within its walls. Mark's heart raced as he stepped into the darkness, his footsteps echoing through the empty chamber like the tolling of a funeral bell. And there, amidst the dusty sarcophagi, he saw it, the skeletal guardian of Willow Grove, its hollow gaze fixed upon him with a chilling intensity. But Mark was not afraid, for he knew that the time had come to confront the darkness that had haunted him for so long, to face his fears head-on and emerge victorious. With a steady voice, he called out to the guardian, his words echoing through the mausoleum like a clarion call. "I have come to end this curse," he declared, his voice filled with a steely resolve. "I will not be bound by the chains of your ancient pact. I will break free from your grasp and reclaim my destiny." The guardian's eyes narrowed at his words, its skeletal form writhing and contorting with a primal fury. But Mark stood his ground, his gaze unwavering as he stared down the creature that had haunted his nightmares for so long. "You cannot defeat me," he said, his voice filled with a quiet confidence. "I am stronger than you realize, stronger than the darkness that seeks to consume me. And I will not rest until I have broken free from your cursed embrace." With a roar of rage, the guardian lunged forward, its skeletal claws outstretched as if to strike him down. But Mark was ready, his body poised for battle as he met the creature head-on. With a swift motion, he drew forth a gleaming blade from his side, its edge shimmering in the dim light of the mausoleum. And as the guardian advanced, he struck out with a fierce determination, his sword cutting through the darkness with a precision born of years of training. The guardian howled in pain as the blade found its mark, its skeletal form writhing and contorting with each strike. But Mark did not falter, did not relent in his assault. He pressed on, driving the creature back with each swing of his sword until at last, with a final, resounding blow, he struck the killing blow. And as the guardian fell to the ground, its bones crumbling to dust beneath the force of his attack, Mark knew that he had emerged victorious, that he had broken free from the curse that had bound him for so long. With a triumphant cry, He raised his sword high above his head, its blade gleaming in the moonlight as he basked in the glow of his hard-won victory. And as he stepped out into the night, leaving the mausoleum behind him, he knew that he was finally free, that he had reclaimed his destiny and banished the darkness that had haunted him for so long. As dawn broke over the horizon, the graveyard fell silent once more, its shadows retreating into the depths of the earth as the first light of morning washed over the land. Mark stood amidst the tombstones, his heart heavy with the weight of the ordeal he had just endured. But despite the trials and tribulations he had faced, he knew that he had emerged victorious, that he had broken free from the curse that had bound him for so long. With a sense of newfound purpose, he turned his gaze to the horizon, the warmth of the rising sun filling him with a sense of hope and renewal. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he felt truly alive, truly free from the darkness that had threatened to consume him whole. And as he breathed in the crisp morning air, he knew that a new chapter of his life was about to begin. With a sense of determination burning brightly in his heart, Mark set out into the world, his mind filled with dreams of a future filled with promise and possibility. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that there would be challenges and obstacles to overcome, but he was ready to face whatever lay in store with a courage born of his newfound strength. And as he walked, he felt a sense of peace settle over him, a sense of calm that he had not felt in a long, long time. For he knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, he would face them with courage and determination, knowing that he had already overcome the greatest challenge of all. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, Mark found himself growing stronger with each passing day. He explored the world around him, seeking out new adventures and experiences that would help him to grow and to learn. And with each new challenge he faced, he felt the echoes of the graveyard's curse growing fainter and fainter, until at last they faded into nothingness, lost to the winds of time. And so, with the darkness of the past behind him, Mark embraced the future with open arms, ready to seize the opportunities that lay ahead. For he knew that no matter what trials he may face in the days to come, he would face them with courage and determination, secure in the knowledge that he had overcome the greatest challenge of all, that he had broken free from the curse of Willow Grove Cemetery and reclaimed his destiny as his own. And as he walked into the sunset, his heart filled with hope and possibility, he knew that he was finally at peace, that he had found his eternal rest at last.